We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of this and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing, and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, monitoring, and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. Ready to make an impact? For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 039 2362. Visit us today at www.adstudycenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the Outer Marina through Akpombo, early into the Adeniji-Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq Enlightenment.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota Once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an Armed Forces Remembrance Cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Markets, Souq Enlightenment.
Trafalgar Square, established in 1844, is a symbol of British naval history and a popular cultural spot in London. Named after the 1805 Battle of Trafalgar, it has been the site of celebrations, protests, and cultural events, representing the changing identity of the city. It houses several landmarks, like the Nelson Column, St. Martin in the Fields Church, and the National Gallery. The Nelson's Column, a tribute to a naval hero, is the main feature of Trafalgar Square. Standing 52 meters tall, completed in 1843, it honors Admiral Horatio Nelson's victory at Trafalgar. The column is topped with a statue of Nelson, and 4 bronze panels at its base show scenes from his battles. Surrounding it are 4 large bronze lions added in 1867, symbolizing British power.
Not just in its look, but this is very much the sort of centre of London. You know, whenever there's a celebration, a protest, it's a public space that's very important for a lot of not just people that live in London, but for the UK. You know, it's a place where people would congregate. You know, I remember being here all around the 25 Olympics, but it was very much one of the centerpieces of British iconic culture. Yeah, no, you used to be able to climb on the lions when I was younger, but you can't do anymore. So there you go, that's progress for you.
St. Martin's in the Fields Church, reputed as an architectural gem, was built between 1722 and 1726. It is known for its neoclassical design by architect James Gibbs, and is famous for its portico and steeple, and has influenced architecture worldwide. The church also a rich musical history, hosting concerts and helping the homeless.
Yeah, I actually came to London just on a little day trip, and then I remembered that this church sometimes has classical music on, so I just popped in, And there's no concert, but there were some people practicing. So there's a quartet of violins, and they made some lovely, sort of practiced for some classical concert. So I really enjoyed just sitting there for 10 minutes, listening to it. It's lovely, it's a really nice church, and it's nice that the people don't use it much time. So maybe we should have a nice cafe as well.
The National Gallery, founded in 1824, is a treasure trove of art. Located on the north side of Trafalgar Square, it houses over 2,300 artworks from the 13th to 20th century, with free public access to masterpieces from major European artists.
I'm not really sure. I haven't been through the museum yet, but I'm here for a Christian heritage tour to kind of learn more about the history of the Protestant Reformation in England and Christian history here in England through the paintings that are in the gallery. So that's what I'm here for today.
Trafalgar Square blends Britain's naval history with modern art and culture. It remains an important public space, attracting millions of visitors each year to experience London's rich heritage and vibrant atmosphere. Chike Okolo, reporting for Souq News.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekbetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State, on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with the Daily Service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as Executive Governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, Souq Enlightenment.
For years, uncomplimentary features including obsolete books, lack of power supply, leaking roofs, and sparse library infrastructure have become an integral feature of public libraries. Visits to some of these facilities, particularly in Lagos and Ibadan, indicate a litany of pathetic public libraries. Attempts by governments to turn things around have been weak and sometimes non-existent. Expectedly, the impact of this on learning is telling. This is the basis of today's news talk, which focuses on public libraries. An American writer, Sidney Sheldon, once said that libraries store the energy that funds imagination. He added that libraries open up windows to the world and inspire us to explore and achieve and contribute to improving our quality of life. For many years, many young Nigerians have failed to improve the quality of their lives by expanding their knowledge or nurturing their latent reading skills, hence leave most parts of their lives in doubt, contrary to the advice by British novelist and screenwriter J.K. Rowling, who said, "When in doubt, go to the library." Public libraries play a crucial role in a country's educational system by providing free access to a wealth of information and resources through offering a diverse range of books, journals, and digital resources that are essential for learning and research. They serve as a repository of knowledge accessible to everyone, regardless of socio-economic status, in addition to supporting lifelong learning by providing resources for all age groups. Their role in promoting literacy by offering reading programs, story hours, and access to books for young readers is very crucial for early childhood education and developing a reading culture. It is in light of this that the declining state of public libraries and poor management of the existing one, particularly in Lagos and Ibadan, are posing concern to critical shareholders. These concerns are there because of the overreaching effect on the standard of education in the two states, Oyo and Lagos. Most libraries in Lagos and Ibadan share similar attributes. They range from old buildings with leaking roofs, obsolete books, empty shelves, disused tables and chairs, uncomfortable ambience, and overgrown shrubs. Also, while the world is migrating electrically and libraries digitalized to bring them up to speed and make them fit for purpose in contemporary times, most libraries in Lagos and Ibadan are without electricity and manually driven. With fond memories of borrowing books to read in Lagos and returning them to the library in the full care of the other students after digesting their contents, Mrs. Felicia Adeniyi is pained that many years after, school children are longer enjoying such opportunities because of what public libraries have become. For starters, most of the libraries in Lagos State belonging to the state government are in a ruinous state. In its wisdom, the Lagos State government some years ago has turned the age-long library on Broad Street into a drug laboratory or whatever. This reporter used to use the library in the 60s, 70s, and 80s before the politicians decided to change their minds. In Oyo State, the surrounding of the Oyo State Library Board at Dugbe in Ibadan betrays what a reading environment should look like. Inside the facility is equally disheartening. Additionally, makeshift shanties cluster the precincts of the library, making it difficult for visitors to recognize his presence. Random samplings carried out among students revealed a worrying situation. While many of them hardly know where the public libraries are located, some don't even know that public libraries exist. This perhaps explains why the standard of education in the state is on the decline. The reference section, located on the first floor, is slightly deserted, with only one patron present apart from the staff. The shelves are filled with old, dusty books, revealing lack of maintenance and updates. Public libraries in Ogun State are also a worrisome sight. Users no longer patronize the state library. One of the major factors causing this is because the libraries are not digitalized and facilities are in a poor state. When the director of the Lagos State Library Service, Oyadipe Ashimiyu Amao, asserted that the state libraries had been standardized and are offering quality services, one can't help but wonder the cause of the growing apathy among residents so far as the use of public libraries is concerned. But the answer is not far-fetched, as some of the existing 13 libraries that exist in Lagos State have not been developed to the expected standard. Amao had recently, at a function organized by the State Library Service held for secondary students, claimed that the state libraries offered a conducive environment for libraries. But when Souq News visited Ikeja's Secretariat Library, the National Libraries on Macaulay Way, Butemeta, the conditions of these libraries were against the assertions made by Amao. It is completely against what the gentleman had told the public. While the National Library opens at 8:30 a.m., library users they insist that the discomfort they experience there is a discouraging factor which they have continued to bear because of the little or no choice that they have. One of the library users said that they often come to the library with their hand fans due to the lack of electricity, and when there is power supply, the air conditioners and fans may not be working. Is this what we need in the center of excellence? Let us in Lagos declare a state of emergency on public libraries because the reading culture is gradually vanishing right under our nose. My name is Bayo Olaoye. Ojude Oba is the annual social cultural festival with the splendor and grandeur of the Ijebus on display at Ijebu-Ode, the capital city of Ijebuland. It is a nexus of cultural and sartorial elegance, social grace, and evocative dance steps that has attracted indigenous as well as local and foreign tourists over the years. It is a celebration of the enduring age-grade system called Regbe Regbe, platform of cultural identity and unity of the Ijebus, including those in the diaspora. From its origin in the 1880s as an Islamic faithful's salam message and visit to the Abujale of Ijebuland, the Ojude Oba festival has transformed into an all-indigenous celebration filled with fun and laughter. I shall be looking at the economic and tourist attractions and potentials of this festival in view of its increasing global patronage and attention it is receiving right now. Credit for the transformative feats of social engineering concerning the Ojude Oba Festival must go to His Royal Majesty Oba Sikiru Kayode Adetono Ogbagba II, since ascending the throne of his forefathers in 1960. It is a case of an iconic traditional ruler creating an iconic legacy. This year's edition of Ojude Oba Festival was estimated to have attracted over 2 million people and several more millions of a global audience. The social media was agog in transmitting the grandeur of the occasion. As is usual, Ijebu-Ode experienced vehicular and human traffic gridlock, especially in the city center, where the Palace of the Awujale and the Palace Annex hosting the event are located. It is a measure of the economic derivative of the celebration of Ojude Oba that all hotels in Ijebu-Ode and environs were fully booked from Saturday, June 15, 2024 through to June 28 to Wednesday 19th, the day after. Food and drinks vendors also made boom sales, catering for the teeming patrons at the celebration. At the venue of the celebration, opposite the palace, the Awujale was resplendent in the majesty of his royal regalia, supported by other traditional rulers in Ijebu land, with Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State, also an Ijebu, adorned in a desired native dress of sunshine colors that stood him out as a sartorial connoisseur. But then, in all good things, there are few contrary people sold to skepticism and negativism. The 2024 Ojude Oba Festival attracted such people who erroneously and mischievously described it as a fashion jamboree of no consequence to the welfare of the hosts and the environment. These skeptics and critics wondered why the Regbe-Regbes should not offer scholarships, build health centers, and construct roads and boreholes. Some people even dismissed the Regbe-Regbes outing at Ojude Oba Festival as a wasteful fashion extravaganza. In their anger, they wondered what a hell is this Ojude Oba Festival? What an empty hype. The coordinator of the 2024 Ojude Oba Festival, Chief Fasi Yusuf, told journalists that the Regbe-Regbe had not only been feeding the people and educated the youths, as it were, but have also been providing infrastructural facilities. He described the Regbe-Regbes as interventionist development agents, citing such instances of their interventions to include the 20 million naira renovation of the male surgical ward at the State Hospital in Ijebu-Ode, renovation of Nigerian Police Area Command Ekpeba, Ijebu-Ode, and building of police posts in different parts of the city. The 108-page Ojude Oba Festival 2024 brochure listed some of the other activities engaged by the various Regbe-Regbes, as the resuscitation of the moribund School of Nursing and Midwifery Ijebu-Ode, scholarships to indigent students, construction of 4 blocks of classrooms at Omu Ajose Comprehensive High School, and 3 classroom blocks at Imososi Primary School, Agoiwoye. Other activities include the rehabilitation of roads, provision of boreholes and solar street lights, support to orphanages, homes, and homes for special needs, and free medical services for indigents. Chief Fasi Yusuf, who is the backbeam of Ijebu-Ode and secretary to the Awujale Council of Chiefs, stressed that it had become imperative to enlighten skeptics about the extensive ramifications of the Regbe-Regbes as a unique, populist, social, cultural, economic platform where services were provided for the community and also for members. He pointed out that the Regbe-Regbes had become unifying and uplifting platforms with the enhancement of the well-being of members, financial and health-wise, considered collective responsibilities of the age group, where investment loans, payment of hospital bills of sick members, and donation to families of deceased members are made. Talking personally and professionally after my private investigation, interaction, and discussion, I will say categorically clearly that the glees and colors associated with the Ojuodoba festival is outside the ranks of any cultural festival in Nigeria. What Nigeria advertises to the world in Ojuodoba is cultural elegance and communal cohesion. It is this cultural elegance that is being proposed as a tourism potential and strength for Ojuodoba Festival as a major global tourist destination. For instance, Morocco, Africa's top tourism destination with 13.2 million tourists in 2023, has its vibrant culture as its selling point. Egypt, which is placed second with 11.5 million tourists, has its ancient wonders of the pyramid and the Valley of Kings as its attraction. While for 8th placed Kenya, with 2.6 million tourists, the premium is its wildlife safaris. Nigeria, ranked 68th in the World Tourism Index, attracted only 518,000 tourists in 2021 from the latest figures available from the United Nations World Tourism Organization. This demands that Nigeria needs to create and promote a tourism policy and strategy with a properly packaged Ojuodoba Festival as a potential tourism money spinner to tap into the gold mine of its 1.3 billion global tourists in 2023 that generated revenues of $4 trillion, according to the United Nations World Tourism Organization. The Ojuodoba Festival should be funded, supported, and promoted to rank with the world's leading tourism destinations. These destinations include Disney World in Florida, in the United States of America, California, also in America, Cancun in Mexico, the safaris in Kenya, Paradise Fund in Mauritius, the aquatic jewel of the Indian Ocean, and the historic Colosseum in Rome, Italy. We in Nigeria need to appreciate and celebrate our culture as our patriotic, passionate contribution to global tourism. And the Ojuodoba Festival is such a sellable cultural event. My name is Bayo Olaoye.
Palm oil has long been a vital component of Nigeria's agricultural heritage, with roots tracing back to pre-colonial times. Originally serving local needs, its importance has grown exponentially, propelling Nigeria into a prominent global producer. Spread across regions like Edo, Delta, Cross River, and Ondo states, the country boasts extensive plantations and advanced processing capabilities. It takes about 4 years for oil palms to produce fruit, suitable for harvest. Each tree will then continue to produce fruit for up to 30 years, at which point they will have grown to around 40 feet tall. According to reports, Nigeria's palm oil production increased to 1.4 million metric tons in 2023, witnessing steady growth since 2009, with a peak surge in 2010. Despite a surge in domestic consumption, reaching 1.8 million metric tons in the 2021-2022 crop year, Nigeria still imports 350,000 metric tons, primarily from China and Malaysia. Similarly, some of the challenges plaguing the sector include declined production, outdated equipment, and insufficient financing, resulting in a notable production deficit. To address these challenges, government intervention is imperative, necessitating increased funding, favorable policies, and enhanced environmental protection measures. Furthermore, Nigeria and other African countries must move away from the local way of producing palm oil to a more mechanized method for effective and efficient production. Additionally, fostering collaborations among farmers, processors, marketers or consumers, and equipment fabricators is vital for sustainable production and value chain development. Israel Adeyemi, Souq News.
Hello and welcome to Souq News Television. We're reaching you live from our studios in Lagos. I am Olumide Shokoya. Firstly on the news, Nigeria's digital economy has attracted $191 million in foreign direct investment in the first quarter of 2024, a sharp rise from the $22 million in the same period of 2023. Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, shared this during a State House interview ahead of President Bola Tinubu's second anniversary, describing it as proof of growing investor confidence. Tijani revealed that a $2 billion fiber optic infrastructure rollout will begin in the fourth quarter of 2025, aiming to lay 90,000 kilometers of cable nationwide. He said the ministry's $3 million technical talent program, which has trained over 117,000 Nigerians in digital skills, is powering workforce development and digital inclusion across the country. The minister also highlighted AI advancement, startup investment, and rural connectivity projects, including plans to deploy 7,000 telecom towers and achieve 90% broadband penetration by 2025. Tijani said the ministry is building long-term reforms that will transform Nigeria's economy for generations. The Nigerian Education Loan Fund has started disbursing April 2025 upkeep payment to eligible students across the country. While some students may face delays due to a recent system upgrade, the enhancement is designed to improve security and ensure timely allowance payments in the future. Upkeep payments are vital for students, especially those from low-income families, helping them cover living costs and focus on their education. Experts say these investments in education will boost Nigeria's long-term economic growth by developing a skilled workforce to prevent delays caused by some schools withholding funds. The Federal Ministry of Education plans to implement a tracking system that allows direct payments to students. The ministry would also set clear rules and penalties for schools that fail to pass on the funds promptly. Moving ahead, the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee concluded its 300th meeting today, May 20th. In Abuja, the high-stakes meeting drew the attention of economists, investors, and policy watchers as it plays a vital role in shaping Nigeria's economic direction. These discussions were centered on key indicators such as inflation, interest rate, and currency stability, with Nigeria's inflation rate easing to 23.7% in April 2025 from 24.23% in March. Financial experts widely anticipate the committee will retain current interest rate of 27.5%. The meeting also addressed exchange concerns as the naira currently trades at 1,598 naira 72 kobo to official dollar officially and at 1,635 naira at the parallel market. Experts, including Muda Yusuf, have urged the Central Bank of Nigeria not to further tighten policy, warning that high rates could slow down private sector growth. CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso, however, reaffirmed his commitment to using traditional methods to manage inflation and maintain market confidence. Away from that, the Lagos State government says major infrastructure projects, including the multi-agency office complex, Revenue House, and Ile-Pako reconstruction, will be completed by September. Special Advisor on Works, Dr. Adekunle Olayinka, announced during a ministerial briefing that the projects are over 70% complete and have created 250 jobs. The new Revenue House will unify all state revenue services to boost performance and reduce rental cost. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's administration has also delivered 8 new infrastructure projects and is working on 28 more. The government is urging private sector support as it continues to push for sustainable development and operational efficiency across agency. Additionally, the state completed 61 roads covering 56.52 kilometers and 5 new bridges in the past year. According to Special Advisor Engineer Olufemi Daramola, over 1,000 inner roads were maintained and 218 drainage channels cleared. The government also attracted $22 million in foreign investment and expand fiber connectivity. Lastly, on the news, the federal government of Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates (UAE) have officially agreed to allow the use of United States dollars and other freely convertible currencies for air ticket payment. This update, outlined a revised bilateral air services agreement, marks the formal return of Emirates Airlines to Nigeria after halting operations in 2022. The agreement permits designated airlines from both countries to sell tickets and related services in local or international currencies. UAE designated airlines include Emirates, Etihad Airways, and Fly Dubai, while Nigeria designated Air Peace and United Nigeria Airlines. Airlines may also use their own documents and agents to conduct commercial operations freely. While the move is expected to strengthen aviation ties and increase connectivity, Nigeria travel agencies have expressed concerns over accumulating and remitting foreign currencies. The agreement also requires that foreign airlines settle local operational expenses in Naira unless otherwise allowed by Nigerian regulators. Many thanks for watching. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms at Souq News Television. And Just Africa comes up after this. I am Olumide Shokoya.
Known as the father of African literature, Chinua Achebe was born on the 16th of November 1930 in Ogidi, now Anambra State, eastern Nigeria. He was born to Isaiah Okafor Achebe, a teacher and an evangelist, and Janet Anenichi Iluegbunam, a vegetable farmer. Achebe has reshaped the global understanding of African identity through the power of storytelling. Raised during the twilight of colonial rule, Achebe's education was steeped in both Igbo tradition and the Western values of post-colonial Christianity. As a student at the University of Ibadan, he became fiercely critical of how Africa was portrayed in Western literature. Achebe believed that Western literature often painted Africa as a dark and primitive continent, but he sought to tell the African people's lens. In 1958, Achebe's groundbreaking novel Things Fall Apart shattered colonial narratives through the tragic story of Okonkwo, an Igbo warrior. Achebe illuminated the complexities of African culture and the devastating effects of European colonization. Things Fall Apart became more than just a novel. It became a symbol of African resistance against the oppressive narratives of colonialism. Achebe was not just a writer. He was a passionate advocate for African self-determination, and his political activism made him a critical voice in the post-colonial era. Even after a life marked by personal and political struggles, including a car accident that left him partially paralyzed, Achebe continued to inspire. He taught at Bard College and later Brown University, where his influence reached new generations of writers and thinkers. He was married to Christiana Chinwe Okoli, and they had 4 children. Sadly, he died in March 2013 at the age of 82. Chinua Achebe's legacy endures in his novels, his essays, and in the countless voices of African writers who follow in his footsteps. He gave us a voice, a story, and a vision of Africa that is ours to share.
Wole Soyinka, born Akiwande Oluwole Babatunde Soyinka on July 13, 1934, in Abeokuta, Ogun State, southwest Nigeria, stands as one of Africa's most celebrated literary figures and a global icon of resistance against oppression. His life and works reflect an unwavering commitment to justice, culture, and the transformative power of arts. Soyinka was born into a Yoruba family in colonial Nigeria, an environment that exposed him to both traditional African culture and Western education. His father, Samuel Ayodele Soyinka, was a school headmaster, while his mother, Grace Eniola Soyinka, was a devoted Anglican. This blend of indigenous and colonial influences deeply shaped Soyinka's world. Soyinka attended Government College Ibadan and later proceeded to the University College Ibadan, where he studied English and literature. Soyinka completed his education at the University of Leeds in England, earning a degree in English and later a doctorate degree. In the late 1950s, Soyinka began working as a dramaturgist at the Royal Court Theatre in London. However, his passion for storytelling and cultural preservation drew him back to Nigeria, where he founded two theatre groups known as the 1960 Masque and the Orisun Theatre Company. Soyinka's works, often a fusion of Western dramatic techniques and African themes, address universal issues of justice, freedom, and human dignity. His early play, titled A Dance of the Forest, which was introduced in 1960, written to celebrate Nigeria's independence, critically examined the nation's socio-political trajectory, setting the tone for his career as both artist and activist. Soyinka's activism became more visible during Nigeria's post-independence years. In 1967, during the Nigerian Civil War, he called for a ceasefire between federal forces and Biafran separatists. This led to his arrest by the military government, and he spent 22 months in prison, where he wrote a short drama titled The Man Died, Prison Notes, a harrowing account of his imprisonment and a profound critique of authoritarianism. Soyinka has authored more than 20 works, including plays, novels, poetry, and essays. In 1986, Soyinka became the first African to win the Nobel Prize of Literature, an achievement that brought global recognition to African literature. Soyinka remained an outspoken critic of oppressive regimes, often at great personal risk. His activism extended beyond Nigeria, addressing global issues of injustice and human rights. During periods of military rule in Nigeria, he went into exile, continuing to write and speak against tyranny. Today, Soyinka is celebrated not only as a literary giant, but also as a symbol of resilience and moral courage.
Elon Musk is a visionary entrepreneur leading innovative ventures in technology, space exploration, electric vehicles, and renewable energy. Musk was born on June 28, 1971, to a South African engineer and his mother, a Canadian model and nutritionist in Pretoria, South Africa. Talents for computers and entrepreneurship emerged early, and at age 12, he created and sold a video game. Musk studied physics and economics at Queen's University and the University of Pennsylvania. In 1995, Musk founded Zip2, sold to Compaq for $307 million. He also co-founded X.com, which became PayPal, acquired by eBay for $1.5 million in 2002. Driven by a vision for humanity's multiplanetary future, Musk founded SpaceX in 2002, developing affordable rockets to support International Space Station mission and NASA's Artemis program. He became a major investor in Tesla 2004, launching electric vehicles like Roadster, Model X, and Model 3. Tesla unveiled the Cybertruck, beginning deliveries in 2023. Musk acquired X, formerly known as Twitter, in 2022, aiming to enhance future and transparency. Musk has at least 12 children from multiple relationships, including Justin Wilson, Tallulah Riley, Grimes, and Siobhan Zilis. Through SpaceX, Tesla, and other ventures, Musk shapes technology and innovation globally, and his influence extends beyond business into politics and culture.
Muhammad Yunus was born on the 28th of June 1940 in the village of Batwa, Chittagong, a British Indian colony which is currently known as Bangladesh. He attended Lama Bazar Primary and Secondary School in his village and passed the matriculation examination into Chittagong Collegiate School, where he ranked 16th out of 39,000 students. After his graduation in 1961, Yunus joined the Bureau of Economics as a research assistant and was later appointed lecturer of economics at the Chittagong College. During that time, he also set up a profitable packaging factory on the side. In 1965, he received a Fulbright scholarship to study in the United States, where he obtained his PhD in economics from the Vanderbilt University Graduate Program in Economic Development. Between 1969 and 1972, after his keen education excellence of apex heights and proportions in the United States, he returned home and was appointed professor of economics at the University of Chittagong. He was eventually appointed onto the board of directors to the United Nations Foundation, where he served for 33 years. When Bangladesh suffered a famine in 1974, Yunus felt he had to do something for the very poor. In his country, he founded the Grameen Bank. His motivation was to create economic and social development for the very poor, giving long-term loans to those who wanted to start small enterprises to pay back when they can. The aim to help was to get many of them out of poverty. For this, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006. Muhammad Yunus is a recipient of numerous international awards for his ideas and endeavors, including the Humanitarian Award in 1993, World Food Prize in 1994, Independence Day Award in 1987, Bangladesh's highest award, the King Hussein Humanitarian Leadership Award in 2000. He was also awarded the Volvo Environment Prize in 2003, Nikkei Asia Prize for Regional Growth in 2004, Franklin D. Roosevelt Freedom Award in 2006, as well as the Souq Peace Prize in the same year. All humans are born entrepreneurs, he would always fondly say. His heart shone through his everyday life.
Cocoa remains a significant cash crop in Nigeria, predominantly produced by small-scale farmers in the country's southwest region. Historically, cocoa served as a major source of foreign earnings until the 1970s, when the discovery of petroleum shifted the focus away from agriculture. Despite various challenges from its introduction in 1807 to the present, efforts by successive governments and the resilience of cocoa farmers have sustained its production. To better optimize productivity and ensure fair prices for farmers and high economic returns for the government, the Cocoa Marketing Board, CMB, was established in 1947. However, the goal was not totally achieved as pricing policy weren't favorable, discouraging farmers from producing export crops, and that eventually led to the board's abolition in 1986. This resulted in reduced yields and lower quality cocoa beans. Meanwhile, the Millennium era witnessed a shift in farmers' focus towards more economically viable crops like oil palm.
Good morning and welcome to Just Africa, and remains a formidable player in the global oil and gas landscape. Three countries, Nigeria, Algeria, and Libya, stand out as the continent's heavyweights in terms of production, export capacity, and proven reserves. The African continent's oil and gas resources are vital for global energy supply, influencing international trade and energy policies. Welcome to Just Africa once again, where we spotlight the continent's economic engines and social challenges and investment opportunities, giving voice to business, economy, and development stories, shaping the continent's conversing with thought leaders, financial experts, and industry players and policymakers. Oyimpriye Krumale. Hello, Olumide.
Good morning.
Welcome. Good morning to you.
How are you doing?
Very good. So,
good morning. I am Olumide Shokoya. So, we're discussing oil dependencies and this thing. And of course, just like you said, we have Nigeria, Algeria, and Libya. I think Nigeria is doing about
37 billion oil reserves, and we're doing 1.5 million barrels per day.
Not bad, not bad, not bad. So, looking at some of the challenges, the major challenge is dependency on oil. These three countries, they export to Europe and the likes, and they depend on oil. We also have instability. We have inconsistent policies. Looking at Nigeria as a case study, we have inconsistent. This government comes in, this one comes in. And you know the funniest thing, even this subsidy removal did not start with this administration. It had started way long during former President Muhammadu Buhari.
Okay.
We were told that subsidy had been removed. Yet, when Bola Tinubu came in, well, we all remember the whole saga, so let's not go into that.
Yes.
So, but it's quite interesting how these three countries are giants of Africa, and what is their GDP, what is their current budget, their current expenditure, how are they living up to all these things?
All right.
It's a whole lot of questions.
Yes, it is. And having our guest this morning, we are going to, having him join us this morning, we are going to look at some of those questions you raised. But if we're to pay more attention in the three countries that I just mentioned, Nigeria, Algeria, and Libya. So, first of all, let me beam a satellite on Libya. Libya has about production, they are doing about 1.2 million barrels per day.
Yes.
And if you look at their national oil reserve, is running to about 50 billion metric tons or cubic metrics of oil in that country, in spite of the political instability. Well, we were told that normally, if everything was okay with Libya, they'll be doing more than 1.2 million barrels per day. So the potential of Africa and Libya and every other countries, generally in Africa to supply energy prospect or the energy prospect of the world is very, very much there. Nigeria or the continent of Africa produce like 7.5% of the global oil supply. In 2019 alone, we did about 1.8 billion.
Yes.
1.8 billion. So,
thereabout.
And this is in spite of some of the challenges, because Libya faces some political challenge. In Nigeria, experts will always say that there's political instability in the Niger Delta, which is the south-south area where we have most of our oil reserves, stationed. Even though recently, during the President Muhammadu Buhari administration, we've been, drilling and searching for oil in the northern part of the country. So we'll go to Angola. Angola is the fourth in the continent when you talk about oil production, and it's doing that's about 7.5 billion cubic feet of oil and gas stored in the country, and it's the fourth. Then we go to Sudan, which plays the fifth, South Sudan. That Algeria seem to be in the second position.
Yes.
So when we look at it, Nigeria is in the second position, Algeria is in the third position. So when we look at it critically, we can see that, yes, indeed, Africa has the potential.
Yes.
But one other question that we should be entertaining is the involvement of the private sector to invest and the development of the exploration and infrastructure, both in all African countries, so that not only should we be at par with other countries in the globe, or countries from other continents in the globe, but also that Africa will be a force in energy, even though now the West is touting green energy. And Africa, we seem to be in one step in, one step out, because when we're looking at our potential of industrialization, we know that we have not really maximized our oil production. Yes.
It's quite interesting, just like you said, the private sector involvement. I think Dangote is one of the people, when he came into the fore, the Dangote refinery, a lot of people looked at him as he would bring succor to Nigerians. And yes, he has had his ups and downs. He has made certain statements, negative, positive. But I think whether he likes it or not, he's still in this race. He's still in this race. And if we can have, imagine if we could have like 7 of Dangote refinery in Nigeria, it will really stabilize things. It will bring the price of fuel down, and the price of fuel keeps fluctuating and all that. We have poor infrastructure. I know the government is working hard, assiduously to make sure the Port Harcourt refinery is up and running. Today we hear it's running. Tomorrow we hear it's a blending plant and all that. But I believe that, with the right team, the right will, we can actually move further.
Yes.
And with the new OPEC benchmark, I believe Nigeria can meet up.
All right. You're still watching Just Africa right here on Souq News Television. We're going to break shortly. When we're back, the program continues. To stay with us.
Welcome to Cash Crafts, the show that turns your skills and ideas into serious income. Whether you're just getting started or you're already in the business, we'll bring you practical tips, fresh opportunities, and real stories to help you grow, literally and financially. I am Grace Komolafe, and today we are digging into horticulture, a vibrant green world where beauty meets business. Ask me why horticulture, and I will give you a mind-blowing answer. So here is it. Horticulture isn't just about flowers. It's food, income, wellness, and sustainability rolled into one. From fresh fruits to ornamental plants, it boosts nutrition, urban design, environmental health, and jobs. With climate concerns rising and food needs increasing, horticulture is fast becoming the new oil. But where is the cash? Let's break it down. 7 green paths to profit, and I take it from 1. Plant nursery. Raise and sell seedlings, ornamental trees, herbs, shrubs, from balcony plants to estate palms. People pay to green their spaces. And 2, landscaping. Design and maintain outdoor spaces for homes, estates, offices. Think aesthetics plus recurring contracts. And 3, garden maintenance. Offer pruning, pest control, soil treatment, and seasonal cleanups. A steady side hustle for trained hands. And we move to 4, horticultural farming. Now, grow fruits, veggies, flowers, or herbs. Go organic, go premium. Target hotels, health stores, and home markets. And we move to 5, consulting. Breed new plants, varieties, advise firms, or supply rare seeds. If you're skilled, your knowledge becomes a product. And we move to 6, product marketing. Sell fertilizers, potting soils, seeds, tools, and even ready-to-use grow kits. Offline or online, green goods, move. Tip number 7, training or education. You can host workshops, classes, or start a YouTube channel. Gardeners, enthusiasts, and students are hungry to learn. Now, whichever paths you choose, start with research. Visit local horticultural centers. Understand what grows in your region. Learn from experts. Your first harvest may not bring millions, but with time, this business roots deep. Remember, success in horticulture isn't only about soil, it's about strategy. So here is your takeaways on a world choking on stress, pollution, and processed food. Green is gold. Horticulture is low entry, high potential, and if done right, it fits both the body and the bank account. So, what number are you reaching for on our list of 7? All right, that's it for today on Cashcraft. Until next time, I am Grace Komolafe, helping you plant ideas that pay right here on Cashcraft.
The Trump administration has once again thrust U.S. immigration policy into the global spotlight with the recent announcement of a new voluntary self-deportation program that offers a $1,000 stipend to undocumented immigrants who agree to leave the country on their own. This incentive-based strategy is a calculated shift from the traditional, more aggressive deportation measures and is already stirring debate among policymakers, immigration advocates, and the public alike. The program, introduced in early May 2025, is being implemented by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. It allows undocumented migrants to register for voluntary departure using the CBP-1 app, after which they will receive a government-funded flight and a $1,000 stipend upon confirmation of their exit. Homeland Security officials argue that this move is designed to save taxpayers significant amounts of money. According to data provided by the DHS, a forced deportation process costs the government an average of $17,121 per individual. In contrast, the stipend program is seen as a cost-effective alternative that also reduces the strain on overcrowded detention centers and court dockets. This new measure is a part of a broader, intensified effort by the Trump administration to curb illegal immigration and tighten control over the U.S. southern border. Since returning to power, President Trump has reinstated several policies from his first term, while introducing new ones aimed at deterring undocumented migrants. Deportation numbers have surged, with nearly 66,000 individuals removed from the U.S. within the first 100 days of his new term. Family detention centers, once heavily criticized for their impact on children, have been brought back into operation, while legal aid for unaccompanied minors have seen severe cuts. These developments come at a time when the United States is experiencing a historic high in its foreign-born population. As of 2023, nearly 47.8 million immigrants were residing in the U.S., with an estimated 11 million of them undocumented. Many of these individuals have lived in the country for over a decade, raising families and contributing to the economy. Immigrants, regardless of status, are a vital part of the U.S. labor force, contributing billions in taxes and significantly shaping industries such as agriculture, construction, and caregiving. Critics of the $1,000 self-deportation offer argue that the program may oversimplify the complex reasons behind undocumented migration. Many of those targeted by the program have deep roots in the U.S., including U.S.-born children, community ties, and long-term employment. Human rights organizations warn that such policies, while less aggressive on the surface, may pressure vulnerable individuals into making life-altering decisions without legal representation or full knowledge of their rights. There are also concerns about the ethical implications of offering monetary incentives for departure, particularly in cases involving asylum seekers or those fleeing violence. From a strategic standpoint, the administration insists that this approach is a practical way to reduce the migrant population without resorting to mass raids or extended detentions. Supporters say it offers dignity and a choice to undocumented migrants while protecting national interests. However, immigration experts question the actual effectiveness of the program, noting that similar efforts in the past have yielded limited results. The offer of $1,000 may not be enough to motivate individuals who have risked everything to seek better lives in the United States. The debate around this policy underscores the broader tensions within American immigration discourse.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the program right here. It's Just Africa, and we are looking at oil and gas production, a reserve, export, and every other thing that is experienced in that sector. We have joining us in the studio Dr. Idahosa. He is not a stranger to you. Welcome to the program, Dr. Idahosa.
Very good morning.
Good morning.
Olumide, good morning. Pleasure to be sitting by gentlemen this early morning.
Okay, you're welcome too, Doctor.
Yeah.
So first of all, in spite of some of the challenges that a country like Libya faces, the fact that its oil that it produces a day, it produces 1.2 million barrels per day, in spite of the political instability. In spite of the political instability, Libya still is the largest oil reserve in the whole of Africa, with about 48 to 50 billion cubic feet of gas. Then Nigeria came second with about 37 billion, with an oil reserve of over 200 billion cubic feet. Then we go to Algeria, then to other countries like South Sudan, Egypt, Sudan. And I see that totally, we're told that Africa has about 125.7 billion of gas and oil stored right under our feet. But how do we make ourselves more attractive to the business climate to harness these raw materials?
Well, I think there are a couple of issues in Africa that we need to actually take cognizance of when we're looking at developing capacity in terms of what you're doing. Just 2 days ago or yesterday, the Society of Engineers in Nigeria paid a courtesy visit to Dangote. And he said if he had knew the enormity of the challenge of running a refinery, he would not have even ventured going in there. But well, it has become like a learning curve for him. And of course, they've made some progress. And that was because if they had looked at the weight of the challenge that you're likely to face, then of course you will not even venture going in there. And you know, some people who have technical expertise in some of this area, they are able to actually evaluate what are the possible challenges that you will need to face while dealing with some of these problems. Because every businessman anywhere in the world, first and foremost, think about return on his investment. And people want to be sure that if I put in S amount of money into a trade, and I'm able to recoup my capital and then, of course, make some profit. And that's, of course, what makes business. Yes. But we find in Africa, there are a whole lot of things that are working against the climate of doing business. Take, for example, we have very weak regulatory framework, and that weakness is also not connected or unconnected with political instability, where you have regime change, and especially when in Africa, people tend to look at politics as a zero-sum game, the winner take all. And so as soon as I become president, for example, of a country, and I have fought a war and I have won, and I try as much as possible to undo what my predecessors had done, no matter how good such a things are. Now, if I invest in your time, and Olumide changes the policy because it's your enemy, politically speaking, then my investment suffers. And that's why you find that there's a challenge of having private capital coming to invest in that sector. because everybody is weighing the risk. The risk is high. So that enormity of risk is what is making it difficult for you to see a lot of private investment attracted to the oil and gas sector in Africa. Then, of course, apart from this issue that you talk about of political instability, you also have issues that has to do with a lot of corruption in this sector. And you find that people who play in that sector also are not as straight as we can expect. And therefore, people want to participate, they get their hands burnt. And then, of course, they run back. And, of course, if you have a bad experience, you don't want to come back again to try what that experience was to you. So this is also a major factor. Then, apart from this, also look at it from logistics point of view. We don't also have well-developed ports in Africa. So when you have a challenge of having to carry your crude from here, for example, to ship outside, you can only do that within the space of the your port size. So how many vessels can be loaded in a day? How many vessels can your port facility handle? Now, you're also looking at it. Accessibility, road, network. So logistically, we also find that there are deficits in Africa. And constraint of also accessing capital for investment. So all these are the issues that are actually militating against private investment in the oil and gas sector in Africa.
But, Doc, some of these issues you mentioned, we thought the banks that normally give out loan to investors, we see them that they are favorably disposed most times to those who are involved in the business of oil and gas. And in another way of attracting foreign direct investment and the participation of businessmen, multinationals within the continent and outside the continent, we have heard of the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline that was supposed to move from Nigeria to Europe. Don't you think that if the government is favorable to making sure that this infrastructure is put in place in collaboration with other stakeholders, it will bring some form of positive participation, positive reflection in the industry?
Now you also look at it from the point of view of what you just talked about, the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline. Now, you find that recently we talked about the $25 billion that United Arab Emirates is moving into that pipeline construction. Now, who are they moving that money to? They're actually moving that money to a relatively stable country in Africa, which is Morocco. So that money is not coming to any other African country. That investment is done because you can see some semblance of stability in Morocco. And over time, and they have proven that, of course, policy change is not as fluid as it is in other African countries because, of course, it's a monarchy, kind of, just like United Arab Emirates. And so the agility of government institution is quite very reasonable. So there's not so much of bureaucratic bottleneck. And so when the king in Rabat tells you and says, this is what we are going to do, of course, you know, he's backed up and is ready to run. Unlike where you have here, he had to dilly-dally. The National Assembly would have to sit up. For example, in Nigeria, you will have a civil society group who have to carry placard and all these things. So you find that there are a lot of stakeholders' involvement in some of all these things, and this creates a lot of trouble. Look at it. If you see Morocco through the Arab Spring, you didn't see any kind of protest because the state is relatively very stable. If you compare with Libya, or Mozambique, or Sudan, or even Egypt, you find that the level of insecurity in these places will not attract any reasonable investment. But also look at it, for example, yes, people can put money in the gas, but how many people want to put money in crude oil? Is that not because of the volatility of the trade? because it's also a high-risk business. Crude price can be at the rooftop today, and then all of a sudden it dips. So what happened to the man who put the money to drilling? He will get his hands burned. So the bank don't want to invest in those kind of business. And that's why you find that trading in petroleum is much more profitable to the bank than investing in the drilling of crude. Because you're understanding that it's long term, and before the maturity date comes, of course, you should have had your hand burnt. Imagine, like in 2014, for example, crude was selling up to 100, 110, 140. And all of a sudden, in October 2014, it dipped to 32.
Very humongous gap. That's
So,
crashing.
so the ability of somebody who has taken loan from the bank to pay become extremely very difficult.
But
And, that become a bad debt to the bank. And no bank wants to take such risk because it's very huge and high.
All right. I know one of the things that's pushing Nigeria back, apart from instability, we have oil pipeline vandalism. And I know Nigeria is...
It's part of the insecurity issues.
Yes. So that's where I want us to try. I would like you to react to that. What do you think is a lasting solution? I know we've had NDDC, we've had so many things, amnesty and all that. What do you think is the lasting solution to this oil pipeline vandalism, if we can tackle it?
Well, I think it's the solution to vandalism is in building a modern state where every citizen feels that they are stakeholders.
Okay.
If you look at communication theory in international relations and political science, as proposed by Cardos, he advocated that, you see, there are some certain things you are expecting to happen to you, and the system is not able to deliver it. And that creates some lag within the system. And if you compare that with the system theory, where you find that if a system is not delivering value to the citizens, and the tendency to withdraw support from that system become very, very high. They call it support stress. The citizens are not supporting you. Vandalism in most African states are a protest against the state.
Not the government.
Yes, government state is
government
the same.
state, yes.
So it's a protest. So it's a form of a protest. That this government does not belong to us, but they are taking what belongs to us. And if we can hit back at the government, we will take whatever thing that we can. It's like a kind of an asymmetrical war between the government and the non-state actors. This is what you are seeing. Now, how do you address this issue? Is to ensure that you invest in the re-emergence or the re-engineering of the state structure such that every citizen feel part of that state. So we get to that point where, like, you get to in America and everybody say, God bless America. So when you get to that level where people are saying, God bless Egypt, God bless Ghana, God bless Nigeria, God bless Benin Republic, then you will find a commitment that everybody is feeling that they belong to this state, and it is their responsibility to protect the asset of that state and not to destroy it.
So in your own words, do you think the NDDC is living up to their task, or what other policies, solutions can be streamlined? Do you think Amnesty International, the amnesty that was given, do you think it worked? What do you think can be done better?
You see, NDDC, for me, which was an intervention agency, I felt it was not needed in the first place, in my own view.
Okay.
I also do believe that amnesty is not necessary, in my own view,
okay,
if the state is functioning optimally. The problem with, of course, these kind of interventions you see is because the state is not functioning well. So that's why we are needing intervention. What's the work of NDDC? To build roads. So what's the Ministry of Work doing? To sink boreholes. What's the Ministry of Work doing? The Ministry of Water Resources, what are they doing? To build clinics. What's the Ministry of Health doing? So it is the dysfunction of the state that is responsible for this. Now, if you have a Ministry of Education that is functional, where all your citizens are given equal opportunity and access to learning and education, you don't need an amnesty program. Because once you train your citizens, and of course, they have something that they can live for, they will not die for an unreasonable cause. So it is a failure of the states that is creating these structures. And in an attempt to solving this problem, what do you see? You see a lot of more problem created. In 2006, I studied NDDC. And I went to the 9 states of the Niger Delta to go see the response of how people feel about the project of NDDC. Now, in short, in my report that I wrote to S1U, Sachi, who were actually the communication agency for NDDC at the time, was the fact that NDDC was still like a regional government. And they didn't see it as an intervention. So people were rating them as if that it was like a regional government that was failing. And why? You see, they turn up water today here, and by the time the people come back tomorrow, after the person who come to commission it is gone, the water has stopped running. They put asphalt on the road today, by rainfall, the thing is swept away. So they didn't see quality of job done. And if you look at even the financing of NDDC, you can do that study. Between when it was established and 2008, 2009, 2010, 80% of the fund that was sent to NDDC was going for capital projects, and about 20% was spent on overhead. 10 years, flip the other side. Now we're spending 90% on overhead and less than 10% on capital project, which was real essence. So in which case, it also had failed the reason why it was set up. Because we are not dealing with root causes. We always like to treat symptoms. What's the fundamental issue here? People need quality education, and they need access to work. And that's all. So if you train your citizens, give them good education, give them access and equal opportunity to work, then people will not have a problem. And that's why you say, for example, the Niger Delta has been complaining in Nigeria that you have oil drill in Delta, in Bayelsa, in River State, in Cross River, in Akwa Ibom. But the headquarters of the drilling companies are in Lagos. So you are shifting their development, and these people are not feeling the sense of belongingness. That's why I said to you that all those things you see, whether it's pipeline, vandalism, they are all a kind of a protestation against a state that they feel not responsive, that is not doing well. So how do we solve the problem?
Okay.
Then you build a responsive state that takes into account the interest of every single individual. I give you a story as a rapper. I was in the UAE some years ago, and it was during public fasting. And you know, in the UAE, you don't eat in the public space when fasting is going on. So everybody eats inside your room or there. You don't go out to eat. No eating outdoor. And we're inside a vehicle, and we're traveling from Dubai to Abu Dhabi. And so while we're going, we were hungry because we're not fasting, we wanted to buy food. So we asked the driver who was taking us down and said, look, can we eat in the car? And he might say, well, okay, but you said your friend is an American. We said, yes, he's an American. And he said, well, if police arrest us and they find out he's an American, they will allow us to go. And I probed and I said, why? He said, because if he's arrested now, in the next 5 minutes, American embassy will be there.
Responsiveness.
It doesn't matter who he is. And it is not that this person is a white skin. He's a black man from my same country, but he has American passport.
Lost to diaspora.
So what does that tell you? Is that the American government takes the interest of its citizens seriously, that no matter and wherever they find themselves in trouble, the American government will be there to defend them. Now, this is what we need to emulate, that our citizens know that the government really and indeed care about our welfare. And once people can feel that sense of care, and I tell you, the sense of patriotism, the sense of nationalism will just naturally be evoked.
Okay, thank you very much. But I want to take a different perspective in this. I want to take you back to the other side of the potential for us to bring in or to harness what we already have. Maybe if you can do that in 2 minutes before we are due for a break. Okay. Okay, so the thing is, first of all, I realize that these 3 major countries that I've mentioned in the continent of Africa, Nigeria exports to North America, to Europe, and to India. Then Algeria exports to Italy, Spain, and France. And Libya is completely reliant on the European market. Every African country that is participating in this industry, their market is not Africa. Their market is outside, which signifies something very important. The market is out there, and when we start talking about Africa's participation in oil and gas and in energy development, it's obvious that if we do not have the infrastructure, we will not go anywhere, because we also have contention coming from the United States and other OPEC Plus members. So what do you think that we can do as a continent of Africa to make sure that we sustain our position as a global player when it comes to our continent, the role our continent plays in this industry?
Well, I think what we have actually also done well, it's the level of investment in human capital development. The reason why you are saying that this shift is going to Europe is because that's where the technology is. Beyond just getting the fuel, which is either your aviation fuel, your kerosene, your diesel, your gasoline, or your petrol, there are other things that you get from crude. Lubricants, asphalt, and so many things, that benzene that they use in producing rubbers and plastic. There are so many things that you can get out of crude.
Yes.
The technology to do this extraction is in Europe, and that's where the value actually is. The question we should ask is that, why also have we not invested hugely in research in Africa to also culturalize a refining technology for this thing that God had given to us freely under our feet? That's where our weakness is. In research, in development. How much money are we putting to research this crude that God has given to us in terms of its refining, in terms of its usage? And this is what we are not doing. So, like the proverbial Esau, we're always famished, hungry to die, and if we don't take that red pottage in an hour, our life will be off. And so we don't commit into lifelong investment. And I think this is where we need to put emphasis. How do we build our institutions and tailor them to study resources that God has put at our disposal? Not just giving people qualification to people without skill that accompany it. Take, for example, you go to Bangladesh. Almost every university in Bangladesh is studying textile. And that's because that's their strength. Textile technology, weaving, they are all courses related to that industry. And that's why you see Bangladesh can get up to about $45 billion annually from garment industry alone. because they have focused their energy to study textile. We who have these natural resources must retool our thinking. Rather than just studying all manner of courses, we must focus on this study and say, how can we leverage what God has given to us and build better lives out of it? And that is the way to go. And that is a huge investment in human capital development. But you find that most companies in Africa, because of the craze to win the next election, feels that investment in education is not as productive as in building roads or building hospitals, because that they can easily campaign with. And there's nothing you can say, okay, I invest in education and building human capital. You can't campaign with it because people can see it. But the one that people can see, that's where we quickly put our money. And sometimes they are huge elephant projects that really don't add value to society.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doctor. Now it's time for us to go on a break, but this time we're taking Cashcraft. We'll be back in a moment. Do stay with us.
I love cocoa because of my everyday cup of coffee. You may not be a lover of coffee like me, but I want to believe that you would like to make money from cocoa if you have your way around it, isn't it? This is Cashcraft, where we share with you insights on how to make money out of different business ideas you might already know but feel uninterested. You might even not be aware and just feeling lost in the crowd trying to find what best suits you. Whether you know or not, it can only get better when you are open to more knowledge and great ideas. My name is Grace Komolafe, and I want you to join me as I spy into the cocoa business. No hypes, just what works. Everybody knows cocoa, but not everyone knows the many things it's used for. When you hear cocoa, your mind jumps straight to the chocolate, sweet, dark, rich chocolate. But cocoa is far more than a one-trick bean. Cocoa comes from the cocoa tree, Theobroma cacao, but the part used for cocoa and all the other products is the bean, which grows inside the tree's pod. The cocoa tree produces large, colorful pods. Inside each pod are 20 to 50 cocoa beans surrounded by sweet pod. The beans are the real stars. They are fermented, dried, roasted, and processed to produce cocoa solids, cocoa butter, and chocolates. Cocoa is rich in fat. Beyond chocolate, it is used for food and beverage, beauty and skincare, pharmaceuticals, agriculture and industry, health and wellness. Now, let's talk business. Starting a cocoa farming business can be rewarding, especially in tropical regions where the crop thrives. Here are key tips to help you begin. 1. You need to understand the crop. Cocoa grows best in humid tropical climates like West Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia. It needs plenty of rainfall, shade, and rich, well-drained soil. And it starts yielding from 3 to 5 years after planting. 2. Get training or mentorship. Learning from experienced cocoa farmers or attending agricultural workshops can help a great deal. Likewise, understanding the life cycle, such as nursery period to transplanting, maintenance, harvesting, drying and fermenting remains very important. Usually, cocoa trees begin their journey in a nursery where seeds from high-yielding varieties are planted in fiber pods or plastic bags. These seedlings grow quickly, and in just a few months, they are ready to be transplanted to the main farm. 3. Choose the right variety. Select high-yield and disease-resistant cocoa varieties like CRI series from Ghana or Amazonia and Trinitario hybrids. Number 4. Secure land. Choose land in a cocoa-friendly zone. Test the soil to ensure it's fertile and free from waterlogging. 5. Set up a nursery. Germinate seeds in polybags or trays for 3 to 4 months before transplanting. Alternatively, buy seedlings from a certified nursery. 6. Land preparation and planting. Clear the land and provide shade. Cocoa doesn't like direct sunlight. Space your cocoa trees 3 times 3 meters apart. Include shade trees like banana or plantain in the early years. We move to 7. Now regular maintenance. Weeding, pruning, mulching, and pest disease control are crucial. So apply manure or fertilizer as needed. Number 8 tips you need to know is harvest and post-harvest handling. Cocoa pods are ready when they turn yellow or orange. Harvest with care. Don't damage the tree. Ferment beans 5 to 7 days and dry them thoroughly for quality. And now it's time to make the cash. The number 9 tips is to market and sell. Connect with local cocoa buyers, processors, or cooperatives. Remember that quality beans fetch better prices. Hence, focus on good fermentation and drying. Lastly, I bring you the number 10 tip. Think long term. Cocoa is a long-term investment, so be ready for it. No complaints or over-agitation. Consider forming or joining a farmer cooperative for support and better access to resources. May I add that to begin a cocoa farming business, it is important to establish a comprehensive business plan. This plan should encompass key aspects such as the business description, product offerings, organizational structure, marketing strategies, competitive analysis, operational procedures, and financial details. These elements are crucial for laying a solid foundation to successfully launch and grow your cocoa farming venture. Kindly do a very detailed research to support the tips I just shared with you. So when you get in, you can come out with encouraging profits. Note, this is not a professional guide. It is just a heads up, a way to call your attention or pull you out of the lost crowd so you can begin to think differently and think business. Until I see you again, I am Grace Komalafe signing out on Cashcraft.
Very good morning to you once again and welcome. We are reaching you live from our studios at Souq News Television. This is Just Africa and the conversation is not over yet. Welcome once again. Doc, green energy and private equity seem to be engaging in this hybrid nature of power supply in the continent of Africa, and they are really making inroads into the continent. In regards to this development, how do we position Africa for a post-oil economy?
I obviously don't think Africans should be preparing for a post-oil economy. I obviously don't think so. Whatever it is that people talk about, and we must understand the reality that's actually befall Africa. And I think Africans need to own their own narrative. Because since the 1970s, when the petrodollar crisis started, the Western countries have been looking for alternative to oil. They've been looking for alternative to oil and to crude, not because it was not good enough, but because it was taking a huge toll on the economy. So whatever the narrative that we call green energy and transition we talk about today is a response to that. Because what this means for Africa is more debt, newer debt, because you are abandoning the old and you are building something new. And I don't think that makes any economic sense as a person. And I think what Africans should be really thinking about is how we do more investment in what we already have to make it more livable than abandoning it for something we don't even have control over. These are the challenge that faces us, and that is what we will need to do. Now, take for example, we're talking about EV, for example.
Electric vehicle.
Are they using battery?
Okay.
A battery not from non-renewable sources?
Yes. Solid minerals.
Where are those non-renewable sources found?
Their deposit is in Africa.
So I don't think Africa should understand the narrative and know what they are owing. And you know what that means for Africa. That the more of the ground we dig, the less we can farm to feed ourselves, because we don't have the land. And then we'll eventually have to be relying on the West for food to eat. So these are the conversations that we must sit down to have as Africans. And ask what works for us, not what works for Europe or Asia.
The Nigerians equally set a plan that, look, in 2060, we want to transition.
Yeah, but because that is a narrative in the world. We have been going to COPA meetings. From COP 14 to COP 29. That's where we are, because that's the conversation. Remember, even Donald Trump currently calls it the fraud, the green energy fraud. That the almighty America is backing out of that Paris Agreement.
Yes.
So why? Because he is looking at it. We have resources on the ground, and you are throwing a technology to us that you feel that you own 100%, that all of us must buy, and we are not going to subscribe to that. And I think that is how Africans should think also. We must not take everything that they are throwing at us, hook, line, and sinker. Yes, they have the best of university in the world. That does not stop us from thinking. So Africa must own its own narrative. I understand that our president is very cautious. That's why he's setting the goal for 2060. At least it takes us a long time to do, because that's one of the issues that he mentioned. Give us the money for free. We don't want to borrow it to develop this new technology. All the money that was promised in Paris, COP25, where is the money? Have they funded Africa? No. Now they're talking about alternative financing, which means that you have to borrow more money from Europe to build a technology that you don't have. And I think that, quite for me, is not something that we have to just accept with hook, line, and sinker. Africa must be able to think its way through its problem, and find its own solution to its own problem.
All right, lastly, sir, one of the benefits of renewable energy is the impact of the environmental impact to the nation or to whoever is harnessing that. Don't you think that is enough to suffice? I mean,
the impact you're talking about is more for Europe and for Africa. Because those things we are talking about, they are taken from the ground. The panels are not taken from the sun. They are not taken from the sun. The battery is not going to be taken from the sun. It's taken from the ground. It's not taken from the water. Now, which ground are you digging? Is it not African ground? Is that not devastation of African economy? African agriculture? Hope for expansion? Look at it. America has 15,000 square kilometers of land size. Canada has almost 10,000. Our own is 924,000. Yeah. Not even up to 1% of what Canada has as land mass in Nigeria, for example. And we are being told that by 2030, 2050, our population is going to be 400 million. Where are the people going to live? Inside the gully that they are digging? Africa must rethink itself and not just fall for every argument to say, oh, this is beautiful for your environment. If you read Kwame Nkrumah's work, Neo-Colonialism, the last phase of imperialism, these were the issue he raised. By the time that Ghanaians were beginning to take advantage of selling potato to Europe, they came back with research and said it became carcinogenic. Because the industry didn't want it and they want cocoa. So they wired their mind to farming cocoa than farming potato and distorted the growth that was happening. So every time they give you a new start, and I think Africa must be wise enough not to take this new start every time.
Okay, but in the conversation of geopolitics, we don't see Africa exhibit some form of tactical policy disposition, and it calls for great concern. If America and Europe are looking at this before they go out with policies, they must have considered this concept, which I know you are more familiar with, absolute advantage and comparative advantage in international trade and international relations. Why is it that Nigeria, South Africa is doing a lot, so let me not even include them, well, even though it's in the continent of Africa, Nigeria, Angola, and every other African countries, they don't take or capitalize on this comparative advantage and absolute advantage as concept of economics in international relations. That equally itself is having a consequence on our economy.
That's the point I'm making to you. Because we don't own our narrative.
Why are we not owning our narrative?
That is a problem.
They're forcing us.
Yes, they may not be forcing us. They may not be forcing us. But you see, you have been conscientized to think in a certain way. Let me give you one example from health. Some years ago, Abalaka said he found a cure to HIV. And it was vilified by every journal from the West. And even Nigerian Medical Association disowned him. Nobody said, let's even see what he has. Let's review it. Let's put it to scientific test. No. It was vilified. No support. But recently we saw what happened with COVID-19 vaccine. Untested, untried, and the whole world were giving indemnity. All governments signed indemnity for the pharmaceuticals in Europe and in Asia, that if this COVID vaccine kills you, you cannot sue the company. Humans were used as guinea pigs. And African research has not been allowed to break through like that. So it's in every ramification. So all your thinking had seemed to be stupid. And what makes sense is only what is taught in Harvard or in Yale or in Cambridge or in Oxford. And life should not run that way. And I think Africa needs to prove itself. That's what Singapore did. Prove yourself. And don't over-rely on these people. And unfortunately, we have so many of our brothers who are all Harvard graduates, Oxford graduates, and they're actually the ones that are determining the policy, and they're likely to speak for Oxford than they speak for Africa. That is the challenge we have, and I think that is what Africa needs to win itself from.
Okay, thank you so much. That is the challenge we have, and that is the challenge that we need to win ourselves from as Africans. It's just Africa. We believe you had a good time this morning having Dr. Idahosa right here on set to dissect the issues, the perspective in oil and gas and participation in the continent of Africa. Thank you so much once again, Doctor, for coming to set.
Always a pleasure.
Great. And this is where we draw the curtain, but we will leave you in the hands of uniqueness of Africa. Good morning to you and many thanks for watching. I am Oyinpriye Krumale.
And I am Olumide Shokoya.
The Seychelles, a stunning group of islands in the Indian Ocean, has become a distinctive figure on the African continent due to its expertise in marine tourism. It may be the smallest country in Africa in terms of population, with just over 100,000 inhabitants. But economically, it is considerably more powerful than its size, and its most valuable resource is the sea. The Seychelles economy is centered on its coastline and pristine oceans, much like many other countries that mostly depend on natural resources like minerals or oil. Tourism that is high value and low impact is vital to the nation's economy. Luxurious eco-resorts and unspoiled natural reserves that characterize the Seychelles experience attract tourists from all over the world. This type of tourism supports jobs in the hotel, transportation, fishing, and conservation industries